What can we do to help? What can we do to prevent suicide? Again, a little more, what groups are most impacted statistically? Population groups are disproportionately affected by suicide are males. You've talked about this, American Indians, Alaska Natives and whites, older adults, veterans, those living in rural areas, and then our LGBTQ youth and adults.
Bill, there's some protective factors that really does help people not commit suicide and not go that route. One, having access to behavioral health care. And the second bullet on here really is important. That is having somebody who is connected. You know, whether that's connected to family, friends, some community, some groups. And when you see people draw away, they're no longer participating in activities that they normally would. That's definitely a warning sign. But being connected is a protective factor. Somebody that has life skills, someone who has the ability to problem solve, has the ability to cope. You know, I think of here at Public Health, how much change we've had, right? Being able to adapt to change and overcome those difficulties and stress of change can be a protective factor. Self-esteem, just people having self-esteem as well as a sense of purpose. They have this meaning in their life that really can be a protective factor. Cultural, religious, or just personal beliefs about suicide can discourage someone from taking their own life. So those are some of the protective factors.
And you mentioned, you know, a religious or a church group. You know, we talk about our church family, and so sometimes just having that group of people, whether you find them at your church or at some other organization that you can lean on when things get a little off kilter, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the critical warning signs, and again, if any of these signs are present, this is really when you need to call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is 988. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. It's a whole lot easier to remember. It's not 911, but it is 988, and they can help either the person who is struggling or you who is trying to help somebody. But a critical warning sign is someone who is threatening to hurt or kill someone, kill themselves, talking about wanting to hurt or kill themselves, making plans, as you've mentioned, making plans, and they've got a plan in place, looking for ways to kill themselves. Maybe they've never been a gun owner and now all of a sudden they're stockpiling guns. That could be a warning sign. Maybe they're stockpiling pills. Or maybe there's something else that they are doing that it's just a little bit out of the ordinary, but it could be definitely a critical warning sign. Maybe they've started talking about or posting or writing, drawing pictures about death or dying or suicide, and that's really out of the ordinary for that person. Those are some of the warning signs that we need to pay attention to, and more importantly, say something. You know, we've had some situations where people have lost a family member, a friend, or a coworker, and when you talk to those around them, a lot of them will say, you know, I saw something, but I was afraid to say anything.
Didn't want to get in their business.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I didn't want to get in their business, and
Right.
so. But
Yeah.
this is life and death.
That's right.
You know, we're not talking about gossiping about somebody or wondering who they're dating, you know, or where they're going on Friday night. But
Right.
you know, we're talking about somebody's life,
That's
and
right.
so being a little nosy or being a little, you know, asking those questions is important.
And again, letting them know that you're there and that you care and that you are noticing there is something out of the ordinary that seems a little bit strange, and say something. And
you don't do it necessarily in front of everybody, you know, at the water cooler. Hey, you know, it looks like you're not doing well. You think about killing yourself?
Right.
You know, do that in a private area and maybe off to the side where you're not trying to bring a lot of attention to it. And certainly you're not going back behind their back and talking about it.
And and hopefully they aren't thinking about suicide, but at least they know that they have a friend or they have somebody who's paying attention that cares about them. So when we think about what are some other warning signs for suicide, their feeling of hopelessness or being worthless, feeling trapped or in pain, unbearable pain, fear of becoming a burden. And maybe y'all have witnessed some of these in others. Increased use of substances, especially alcohol, extreme mood swings. What's interesting about mood swings, not only it could be that they're down in the dumps, or they have this sudden uplift in their mood. Suddenly they're feeling great, and it may be because they've already made a plan. They no longer feel the stress and the burden that they were. But here's some of the other things that we could notice. We do have some brochures. We have some handouts. We have some pamphlets that can be posted around. Here's one that lists warning signs for adults. And if you recognize somebody, again, if it's not something you feel comfortable talking to them about, 988. And I always suggest we put stuff out. We've got some brochures here. You've got some on the screen. This just talk about it. We have some business cards that we can put out. I know a lot of folks like to leave business cards at the doctor's office or someplace, little sayings or whatever. Drop one of these. You never know what somebody's. We have some of these around the different health departments and the different offices. We also have a bookmark. This bookmark also has a QR code that can be scanned to the 988 Suicide Lifeline. And again, a lot more information. We have these in English and in Spanish. So if you're interested in getting any of those, my contact information, bills will be at the very end. Just send us an email and we'll send those to the right person to make sure you get these. Suicide proofing your home is another big one. I know we've had questions about teenagers. What can I do with my teenagers who I fear is going down the wrong
struggling path with something, and need to protect your home. Yeah.
Right. So those are some of the brochures. I want to talk here about having the conversation and getting ready. You've noticed some critical warning signs. You want to talk to somebody. You want to talk to the person about it. Take a deep breath. It says create a safe environment and give yourself time. And really, it's not about you talking. It's about you listening. It's about you listening, being prepared with resources. 988. That should be easy for everyone to remember, but we definitely want to listen more than we talk. And if it is somebody that's close to us, we need to have our own support. We need to have our own support. Maybe we're struggling because this person in our life is thinking about suicide and they're talking about it, and we're wanting to try to figure out what we can do to help them. So
yeah. So this next slide is a sign. I was up in Washington, D.C. last year for some training, and as I was walking back to my hotel, I saw the sign and took a picture of it, sent it to Brent, and it's just there in the neighborhood. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the 988 number. Prior to 2022, we had the suicide hotline. It was a 1-800 number, and it's kind of hard to remember that number. And so the national NAMI, I think, sponsored some information to Congress, U.S. Congress, and they voted to create a task force that came up with, hey, let's have a simpler number. So as you can see there on the sign, 988 is not just a suicide, but it's also a crisis lifeline. So might be somebody that's not actually suicidal, but is dealing with some things that they feel like they need to talk with somebody, and maybe they don't feel comfortable. When you call that number, the first thing you'll get is a little message, and it'll ask you to if you're a veteran, to dial this number, and if you're non-veteran, to dial this number. And that's because our veterans, because we know how high our numbers are. There's extra resources and some specific resources to help them. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's available all over the country. We talked about having access to care in rural areas. And so the beauty of the 988 number is that it's available anywhere in the country. There's over 200 contact centers. The national network includes 200 contact centers where there's somebody that can answer your call. It's free. And so it's also confidential. I know men actually have less insurance than women in a lot of cases, so 50% less insurance. And so maybe you're worried about, how am I going to pay for this? Well, the 988 number is free. Confidential. You talked earlier about, what if this gets back, or what if it affects my job? You're going to have a conversation with somebody there. In addition, you can call, you can text, and then chat. And so, and there's also, for those of our deaf population, there's a way for them to reach out as well. And so, again, a great resource. It's been around since 2022, July 2022. It was implemented, and so it's been rolled out for almost 3 years now, and a great resource. So, starting the conversation. How do I start a conversation? It's not easy, right? Maybe maybe it's not somebody I know really well, but maybe it is somebody I know well. And so, what do I say? And so we've got 3 different groups of conversation starters here. And then the first one, I'm just going to read through, and it says, "Dad, I've noticed some changes in you recently that are worrying me. You used to spend time at the barber shop with your buddies. You haven't had a haircut in a long time. Lately, it seems like you aren't enjoying all the things you used to like doing." And so you've noticed that there's some changes going on. You notice there's the things that he used to like, he's not doing. Maybe he's cut down on some of the relationships that he's had. And so instead of just ignoring that, you start the conversation. Hey, I've noticed these things, and I've observed these behaviors. And so you've said something. The second one says, "Joe, it's not like you to avoid your friends. I heard you say something earlier today about not being around to see how the next football season goes." And so you've noticed them say something. And so it just didn't sound right. Why wouldn't you be around next year for Alabama beating Georgia? And, so you start that conversation, and you say something as opposed to just ignoring it. And it may be that you don't pick up on it at the moment, and later on you're like, "What, did I hear Joe say that?" Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna go back and ask him, what did he mean by that? And again, you're not doing it in front of a lot of people. You're doing that respecting their privacy and confidentiality. And then the last one says, "Honey, I'm worried about you. You just don't seem yourself lately. I think your appetite's off, and it looks like you're losing weight." And certainly that could be from a lot of different reasons. But again, you've noticed something. You notice that they're losing weight. And maybe it's intentional. Yeah, thanks for noticing that I lost some weight. But then again, maybe it's not. Yeah. Maybe it's that they're just they're dealing with some stress, or they're dealing with some issues that they haven't had anybody to notice or think anybody cared about. Mm-hmm. And so you've observed those behaviors, and you've said something. I think our next slide talks a little more. Is it okay to be direct? Yes. Yeah. Talking about suicide does not increase suicidal behavior. By talking openly and directly, you're sending the message that you want to help, that you care, and that they're important, right? Again, I've talked about, some of us struggle. Is it any of my business? I don't want to get into their business. Well,
talking about their life.
We were talking about life, right? So, what if they say, well, moving on. It says, you notice someone you love is not acting like themselves. So, what are you thinking about? You asked the question, are you thinking about suicide? And if you go back to that first screen where we talked about 12.8 million people have thoughts of suicide, that first question, are you thinking about suicide? It kind of addresses that top layer, right? Have you had thoughts about how you would do it? Do you have a plan? And so, 30.7 million people have a plan. They've not only had the thoughts, but now they have a plan. And so you're asking them, have you made a plan? Do you have a plan to kill yourself? When do you feel this pain? When do you feel the most pain? Is it something that's specific, or is it at night? Is it, when you're alone? What's going on? What happens before that leads to you thinking about suicide? So what's that trigger? Is it, I'm paying bills and I don't have enough money? Is it, something at work? Mm-hmm. Somebody that they're not comfortable with is causing, maybe it's those dates we talked about. Anniversary dates, Christmas, holidays, Thanksgiving. We used to go every year to Montana to go fishing, and we don't get to do that anymore. What is it that they're thinking about before that leads to this? And then what have you done in the past to stop you from making an attempt? And so, what is it that makes you say, I don't want to commit suicide this time? What is it that's important to you that has stopped you from following through in the past? Moving on, we what if they say no? What if they say, no, I'm not thinking about killing myself? Well, you've noticed something as we're going on,
right.
And maybe they aren't thinking about suicide, but they are struggling with some stressful situations, or they're struggling with some times. And so you just encourage them to talk about how they're feeling, is there anything else going on? Is there something I can help you with? Again, you're just letting them know that you're there, that you care, and that they're important.
Because they may not be truthful about it.
Yeah, and they may not be being honest with you. They have had those thoughts, but maybe they're not further down in the process. And so support their coping and their resiliency. Ask them what helps them feel better. Encourage them to reach out to resources such as the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, that 988 number. Remind them that you're there for them. Maybe they don't want to talk to you. Maybe they don't feel comfortable talking to you. Let's let them know that there are other people out there that they can reach out to. Listen without judging or lecturing.
Yeah.
That one can be a tough one, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the questions I do like is, what did you do last time? Obviously, this probably isn't the first time that you've had this problem. So when this happened before, what did you do?
Right.
Right. What did you do? And so I like that question to bring up to them and kind of get them saying, I've been here before, and I've gotten through that. Even if they're not being honest about, what their thoughts are, at least they can think about those things.
Sure. And the last here, be vigilant. Maybe they're not being honest with you, but let them know that you care and continue to check on them.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is somebody you care about, somebody that you have an interest in, somebody that you've noticed, and so you want to just, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
How are you doing? Is everything going okay? And I know that's something you and I do, when we're going through some things, and we just check on each other, and it could be just a text. Hey man, thinking about you. Hope you're having a good day. Happy Friday.
That's what funny memes are for.
Yep. And so sending those memes or just getting a chuckle out of somebody. So.
Then the question is, what do you do if they say yes? I have been thinking about taking my life. I have been thinking about suicide. We've heard the number; it's pretty big of those who do think about it. But so we need to take it seriously. I wouldn't brush it off. We need to be calm about it, and we need to thank them for being honest. Thanks for being honest for that, and encourage them to reach out for help. I'm not qualified to go beyond a certain point. I can certainly be there. I can be a friend. I can listen. But when we get to this point, there probably are some extra resources that they need to reach out to. So I need to be able to provide them those resources, and because I am there for them, and I want to make sure that they are aware of that. I also need to not be judgmental, and it could be that in their mind they think it's a small problem, or I will think it's a small problem. Well, obviously it's not. Maybe it's something that I don't struggle with, but it is definitely something that they are struggling with. So I want to make sure that I take that seriously. I just want to encourage them to reach out for help.
And we talked about our church home earlier. Sometimes our church home can be the most judgmental and critical. And so, not being judgmental, helping them through this crisis, through this situation.
And perhaps getting them resources. Maybe they want me to be with them. I'll do the call with you. I'll be happy to take you, or be there for you. So just as a little bit of a recap, what can we do if you see something or you sense something that is wrong? You really need to say something. Again, going back to those who have been left feeling the guilt and the pain of somebody who committed suicide, they're thinking, what could I have done? I knew something was off and I didn't say anything. So don't delay. Finding the words can be hard. It really can be difficult, but we need to find those words. We need to find those words. We need to make sure that they understand that we are concerned about them, and be direct. Are you thinking about suicide? When we talk about they may have a plan to take their life, we need to help them come up with a plan for safety. Right? What weapons or medications? Do they have other things that we need to plan for their safety, to remove them, to relocate them, lock them up, whatever that may be? We need to help them understand and identify signs of crisis and things that they can do to take their mind off their problem. Take them somewhere. Do something fun, right? Make a list of who they can call, a list of people that they trust, that they know will take them seriously and be there and listen to them, as well as professionals.
I saw a friend that was wearing a shirt not long ago, 99 reasons to stay another day.
Yeah.
And so, we talk about one day at a time, right?
That's right.
One day at a time. And so what am I looking forward to tomorrow? What can I do tomorrow? Yeah. And that hope, that plan to still be here again another day.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of folks watching this are ADPH employees, and we do have some resources, but a lot of businesses, a lot of private employers have an employee assistance program. They have EAP. We have an EAP program. We use behavioral health systems, and so we do have that resource available. Obviously 988 is there, but behavioral health systems is available as well. And depending on what the circumstances are, might need to call employee relations, Danita Rose and someone in her office, or the HR director. And also, depending on what it is, might need to call legal or law enforcement. Those are professionals, and sometimes they are the ones, depending on what's going on. If it's imminent danger, we might need to call law enforcement and get them.
Yeah, we've had situations in our health departments where we've had a client that came in, and sometime during that visit, they stated that they were suicidal, or maybe even homicidal and suicidal.
Right.
And so, what do we do? And I think that's been one of the questions we've gotten from our district employees, our county employees, is how do I handle this? And you mentioned, your safety is first.
Yeah,
you certainly want to make sure you're safe. You want to make sure that patient, that client, is safe. Yeah. And so don't leave them in the room by themselves. See if you can get somebody to help you. Do you need to contact law enforcement, or do you need to call 911 and get an ambulance or get medical care there? And so those are the steps. We don't want you putting them in your car.
Right.
We don't want you to take that liability on you. Certainly don't want you to be in a situation where you're not safe.
Yeah.
And so it may be that you need to go to ask for even more help.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some additional resources as well. Again, 988 is the lifeline. That's the number to call. And we want people to know they're not alone, right? 12 million folks think about suicide in the U.S. There are a lot of other resources out there, a lot of online resources. This one in particular, the Alabama Suicide and Prevention Coalition, was actually started by a grant from the Alabama Department of Public Health. So there are some resources out there if you'd like to volunteer to help with some of these resources, to help with education. They have those available as well. So we talk about law enforcement and 911. It can be really difficult to make that decision to call 911. A lot of times we think somebody's going to get in trouble, but we really do need to think about the safety and security, not only ourselves, but that person, those around us. Sometimes we fear that we don't know what to say. Law enforcement, those professionals, they're trained in ways to handle situations that we aren't. A lot of times, most of us aren't. And as this slide says, instinct and compassion are two tools you can always count on. Sometimes we just need to use our instinct, and if it's saying call 911, that's what we need to do. But 911 also gives them access. Maybe they do need to go to the ER. Maybe they do need to go seek care. So we need to get them an ambulance or something. But definitely don't need to take them ourselves. These crisis lines that are set up 24/7, they're the ones that are trained. They're the ones equipped to handle these types of situations.
So yeah, and just to continue on with that, our Alabama Department of Mental Health have a lot of resources, and so there's some local resources that are there in your community, and so be familiar with what's available in your community, who's there that can help you. I want to talk a little bit about taking care of ourselves, and so it's Men's Health Month. We talked about this a little bit. Want to talk about it a little bit more, making sure you get exercise. I'm not sure that I'm the person to be preaching about exercise, but just a 30-minute walk on a regular basis can be enough exercise. Eating healthy. Maybe you don't do fast food every day. Maybe you don't do French fries every meal. I like both of those, but eating a healthy, well-balanced meal, sleeping, and we're not talking about just sleeping on the a nap here or a short, but getting a good night's sleep, making time, also getting outside. Getting some fresh air. It's been so hot. It's June in Alabama, and so it's already 90. I think we're supposed to be heat index this weekend, pushing 100. But I've enjoyed the evenings with the breeze just blowing in with some of the storms and sitting outside. And again, time off, taking your leave, making sure you get a little bit of leave time from your work and from what's been creating those stresses. Laughing.
Yes.
We like to laugh,
Yes,
don't we, Brent?
do.
And so making sure to laugh. And again, oftentimes we'll send each other a little funny that we saw and just bring a laugh to it. Practice mindfulness and then talking with a friend, being able to share, what's going on and share some of that stress and being able to be a friend and listen.
Right.
Listen as well. I want to talk a little bit about breathing here. It says breathing exercises can shift your current feelings, connect you more deeply with your body, can help calm your nervous system. Breathing helps reduce feelings of stress, helps reduce anxiety, and calm the mind. I'm a social worker. I don't know all the health. I'm not a doctor, is what I guess I'm trying to say. But what I read was that it improves the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood, and so it kind of helps you get back kind of in your rhythm there.
To go along with that, Bill, I wore this bracelet I got last year, and it going on with breathing. It says it's okay if the only thing you do today is breathe. And I know that can mean a lot of different things, but certainly that's the goal, right? But here we are back to our 4 questions. What are 3 critical warning signs of suicide? We've talked about those. Somebody giving away things, somebody talking about death, someone who's made a plan, someone who's purchasing weapons or stockpiling pills. I mean, those are some warning signs. Maybe they've withdrawn from things that they used to love doing. True or false, you should never ask someone if they are thinking about suicide. Well,
False.
That's false.
Yeah.
We need to be asking. What are 3 ways to help someone who is having thoughts of suicide? 1, be a friend.
Sure.
Right? Be direct. Have resources available to provide to them. Be there for them. Direct them to others who can help. And finally, name at least 2 suicide prevention resources. I mentioned our EAP program here for employees of Alabama Department of Public Health. 988 is the big resource we hope everybody remembers, but there's also some other resources out there, mental health and some nonprofits that are willing to help. One last thing I want to mention is kind of the symbol. I know, Bill, you mentioned about the sweatshirt with the 99 reasons to live another day. And this is the semicolon. And I'm not an English major. I know some are. But the semicolon is used when the author could have chosen to end their sentence, but they chose to go on. And so this has kind of been picked up as a symbol for suicide prevention and awareness. And so hopefully you can see those out there. I know Bill and I both have pins on with those same colors today.
Yeah, so certainly thank y'all for being here with us today. And Brent, I appreciate you sharing with us. Again, not an easy topic to talk about. Definitely something that affects us as men. And as we celebrate Men's Health Month, Men's Health Week, we wanted to just put an emphasis on suicide prevention, that we know that there are tools and there are things out there that you can do if you're working or notice something in somebody that you know that's having some struggles, is thinking about suicide, or maybe even has said that they have suicide. And so again, happy Men's Health Month. To the dads out there, happy Father's Day. And so seeing no questions, I'm going to go ahead and finish up here. It says, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, now is a good time to send them in by email. Any questions in the room, anything that we can answer. And seeing none, in conclusion, our program today, again, I want to thank you, Brent, for being here with me and talking through this tough conversation and this tough subject. Please remember that you can refer back to the training and resources anytime on demand, and hopefully you'll have a great day. Thank y'all for being here.